I've been really trying to get him on for a while, and he said he had 30 minutes with us today. Whatever he talks about in this short segment, we'll recap in the next. But Porter Stansberry, you know, he predicted they'd go into QE3. They're now starting it. He predicted so much of what was going to happen in the last decade. And he is now predicting right now, it's in the mainstream news that they're going to try to push for a third term for Obama in the mass depression they're going to engineer. And so we're going to be looking at that and a lot more and where he sees the future of this country. I'll give you his bio more in the next segment. But Porter, great to have you back with us.
Al, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I know you create special websites for different projects. What is the best website for people to go to where you have the proof and the information that they're trying to move in this direction?
It's thirdterm1.com. So thirdterm1.com.
Well, we've got that site up on screen for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers. We'll continue to give it out. I want to get into the economy with you, but coming up, what are you going to be able to break down for folks with what's happening dealing with the economy?
Well, from the economy standpoint, I've got some numbers for you on these supposed efforts to cut the spending and things like that. I'll show you there's no way they're going to be able to do it. And in regards to Obama's third term, I'd really like people to see that there's a connection between something that's going on in the oil business and presidential politics.
Continuing as well, QE Unlimited has begun, and they are talking about all these major currencies going down. Will people even notice if the big event accelerates?
I think people are definitely going to notice the fact that their purchasing power is being eliminated by the ongoing inflation that the government refuses to recognize.
The website, folks, if you want to see the breakdown, the video presentation is www.3rdterm1.com. That's the number 3, just the numeral 3, just 3, rdterm1. Thirdterm1.com is the best way for people to find that URL. And I do think we should discuss this, because if we don't discuss the fact that Democratic operatives are in newspapers that you point out in your presentation up on the site, if we don't point out that they're pushing this and that they're trying to float the idea like they did with Schwarzenegger to change the 22nd Amendment so he can run for president, they're going to end up doing it. I mean, he just signed an executive order today and made it secret what his new cybersecurity takeover is. But we know what the bill was. Even CBS News said it's a takeover of the internet, Chinese-style control.
Yeah, well, you know, if you just look and see what he's been doing to win these elections by ramping up the enormous amounts of spending that the government's giving directly to individuals, $750 billion now on welfare programs that go directly to individuals, food stamp rolls that have increased by 50% in his presidency. If you take just those people who get food stamps, that's like 75% of the people that voted for him. So he and the Democratic Party are engineering these election victories, and I don't think it's unreasonable to believe that he could find a way to engineer the repeal of the 22nd Amendment. But even if he doesn't do that, Alex, that doesn't necessarily mean that he won't have a third term. He could have a proxy, and that's one of the things I talk about. He could put up Eric Holder, for example, to be the next president while he actually remains in control of the administration, much like Putin has done in Russia.
Oh, yeah, Putin with Medvedev, and then he came back again. Medvedev, always have trouble pronouncing it. Porter Stansberry, incredible mind, writer, researcher, investment strategist.
As we saw in Katrina, and as we are watching now in New York and New Jersey, the federal government can't and won't help you in a crisis. FEMA ran out of water and MREs in days. Electricity is still off to over 1 million people. The Red Cross, who is quick to beg for money, is now slow to react. Don't put it off any longer. Get prepared today. The InfoWars shop is the largest distributor of ProPure water filter systems. And now, get 15% off your ProPure order with the promo code WATER15. While you're on InfoWarsShop.com, check out these other great preparedness items. The Aquapod kit lets you store up to 65 gallons of water in your bathtub. pocket socket provides you with manual electricity for small electronics like your cell phone. The Life Straw is great for your bug-out bag. And check out our complete line of Interfood products for great tasting and nutritionally dense foods that have a great shelf life. If you are looking to secure your home in a crisis, you can order Strategic Relocations the film, a great companion to the book Strategic Relocations 3rd edition, and The Secure Home by Joel Skousen. When the time to perform arrives, the time to prepare has already passed. Get prepared now, so if a crisis strikes your home, you and your family will be secure. Go to InfoWarsShop.com and don't forget the promo code WATER15.
I love what wimps the average Democratic Party operative is and their minions and people. I mean, it really is shameful to watch as now 1,300,000 and counting people have signed petitions. All 50 states are about to qualify. Last time I checked, it's like 20 states have now qualified to have to get a White House response because of the number of petitions to secede, but people don't really know. You don't go to the whitehouse.gov to secede. You go to your legislature. I'm not calling for the classical secession. The federal government's been taken over. And so I'm saying have the states get together and organize and say, hold your horses. You're out of control. We want to restore the republic. I mean, the foreign banks brag they've conquered this country, just like they brag they've conquered European nations. And Porter Stansberry predicted all of this. Lew Rockwell's coming up, but they are now threatening people. And he's got an article posted at LewRockwell.com saying, don't do this or you're going to regret it. And they've got their operatives in conservative media saying, don't sign those petitions. It's your right to say we want to secede from this federal thing. Whether it's unsophisticated or not, it's people voicing their concern. So Lew Rockwell is coming up, more Ron Paul's speech where he says world government's taking us over. Porter Stansberry founded Stansberry & Associates Investment Research, a private publishing company based in Baltimore, Maryland in '99. His monthly newsletter, Stansberry Investment Advisory, is one of the biggest in the world. Deals with safe value investments poised to give subscribers years of exceptional returns. Porter oversees a staff of investment analysts whose expertise range from a value investing to insider trading to short. And it just continues together. Porter and his research team do exhaustive amounts of real-world independent research. They visited more than 200 companies in order to find the best low-risk investments in the world. And they've got a new special website with a video presentation, www.3rdterm1.com. That's third term 1. The numbers are just, single numbers, not spelled out. 3RD term 1. 3RD term 1. And I got to say, yeah, they are floating articles everywhere saying in the news right now, hey, Obama should run for a third term. We're going to get into this, the latest on the economy, QE3, what he sees happening. But first, I got to ask you, Porter, what do you make of them saying you didn't build it, we're going to bankrupt America, we're going to confiscate all semi-automatic rifles and handguns, and Democrats are really saying, hey, let's start arresting people, and you're racist if you don't like world government. I mean, this is even nastier than I thought it would be. This is crazy. I mean, why do you think they're trying to totally take over right now?
I think, I think they believe that they have the votes, that they have the power, the people behind them. And I think if you look at what's going on in our country, they've, this idea of class warfare has really materialized, where you have half of the people that voted for Obama receiving enormous direct federal handouts. The Democratic Party has perfected this machine that buys elections, and they're going to see how far they can take that, because it doesn't look like the Republicans can get organized enough to stop them.
Well, that's because they're part of the same globalist system. Where do you think the power structure is trying to take us, Porter?
Well, just look at, just sort of look what's going around the country. You have the highest amount of dependence on the government in the history of the United States. At the same time, you have the federal government beginning to break apart financially. Let me throw this number out at you, Alex, and you tell me where it leads. Right now, the federal government is spending $55,000 per household in the United States. There are 114 million households. Okay? They're spending $55,000 per household on government in the United States right now. The average income per household is only $50,000 in the United States. Does that make any sense? Is there any country in the world that can spend more on government than it earns in income?
It leads towards designed implosion. And the Weekly Standard said it's 61,000, breaking down congressional numbers. But let's just say 55,000 the average welfare household is getting. And they are bringing us into debt servitude. They are deindustrializing the country under Agenda 21. We are being conquered, just like Stalin conquered Ukraine, by turning off the economy.
Well, I just look at the numbers side of things, and I can't find any plausible reason that either party would run the country this way. They're dooming generations of Americans to poverty and dependence, and they're doing it by bribing these ignorant voters who will believe anything they read and will do whatever they have to do to get a free buck.
That's worse than that. More and more Democrats, and then they talk about it on all the shows. Bill Maher talks about it. They say they're going to just arrest us and put us in forced labor camps. I'm not joking. That's in the new Army manuals. I mean, they're going to come literally put us on plantations, Porter, and let big fat government slobs beat our brains out, rape our wives. I mean, that's really I'm not kidding. That's what they want to do.
Well, they're not going to do that to me, Alex. I'm prepared to leave if things turn out like that.
No. But listen, I want listeners to know I'm not joking. They are licking their lips. Misery loves company. They just want to wreck and just decimate everything. I mean, this is what happens in every other country, and look at how decadent we are. Ron Paul talked about it in his farewell speech. He said, we are incredibly immoral and evil. We are run by authoritarian psychopaths. I mean, let me tell you, we cannot underestimate, Porter, how bad it's going to get.
I agree with you completely on the economic side of things, and I thought that Ron Paul's farewell speech was the most poignant political speech I have seen in our country since George Washington's farewell address. That should be mandatory for every American to watch and to listen and to think about. He's the only political leader in the United States who is willing to tell Americans the truth about our government, which is, one, that we're financially bankrupt, and two, that we're morally bankrupt.
America is dead. Basically, Dr. Paul, but we're not physical. We can be resurrected, but we're dead. It's over. We're far gone. By design, we've been conquered, and now we're about to be deindustrialized. Porter, break down what you think Obama's planning from his own operative statements. During the implosion, he'll be the FDR that saves us. Break that down and stay in office.
Well, Alex, I think the one thing that's going on in our country right now that could delay the fiscal implosion is the renaissance in the oil and gas industry in America. It's very powerful, it's very real, and it's going to produce a lot more revenue and a lot more power for politicians. And that is going to, the way I see things, if you look at people who ran for president for 3 terms, it's Teddy Roosevelt, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and Obama. And they all had certain things in common. They are all populist. They all spent a lot of money on people. And they are, of course, all very progressive. But the other thing they had in common was, in 1901, there was an oil boom from Spindletop. In 1930, there was an oil boom from East Texas. And right now going on in America is the biggest renaissance in oil since 1930. It's the shale boom. And all this oil is producing huge new revenues for the feds, and also enormous power for Obama, because right now it's against the law to export oil. And so he has the ability to grant licenses that could be worth hundreds of billions of dollars to corporations. And, of course, he's going to use that power and all that leverage to propel himself into a 3rd term. And
yesterday, the Commerce Department announced that the United States is now the #1 producer in the world, surpassing Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, most Americans don't realize what's happened over the last 3 or 4 years in the oil fields. There's been a huge renaissance in oil.
I do. Everywhere I drive in Texas, they're drilling.
Yeah, and listen, Alex, that's undeniably bullish for our economy, and it could absolutely sustain our currency for another 5 or 10 years, because this is gonna really impact our trade deficits, and assuming that we begin to export this excess energy, it could really help the balance of trade for our country. But in the process, it's going to make an icon out of Obama, because he's going to take all this money like Chavez did, and he's going to buy more votes and more power with it, which is exactly what Teddy Roosevelt did, and it's exactly what FDR did.
Well, that's what Lindsey Williams was saying, is that after they imploded the economy, they would bring in all this new oil, and that would buoy things better than the rest of the world, but there'll still be an overall global depression. Or are you saying things will turn around, or you're saying they'll use this as the process of socialization?
I'm saying that this is going to prevent an economic collapse for a certain amount of time. But instead of investing this money wisely to set our country back on a sound footing, they're going to use it to buy more power and more influence. And in the process, of course, they're going to squander this incredible natural resource that we have. And then that's going to put us even further in the hole. No matter how much resource you have, it doesn't matter. I mean, Venezuela is still a poor country, and they have more oil and gas resources than any other place in the world, right? So why can't they get their stuff together? And the answer is because politically, they're using this resource for exactly all the wrong things.
No. 10 years ago, they had power on everywhere. Now the power's out half the time. Folks, you can see the full breakdown of this in an amazing video presentation at 3rdterm1.com. I hope everybody goes there. It's a 3rdterm1.com, just the number 3, and rdterm1.com. We should link to this up at Infowars.com.
And you can also go to third term spelled out. It'll also work. Thirdterm1.com will also work.
Yeah, I just keep giving it out because I'm worried it's kind of a long URL.
Kind of a tricky URL, but just thirdterm1.com. Just go there and you'll see the whole presentation.
But again, this will allow them to get more people on welfare, and then they will see Obama did it. It's so sick.
Yeah, well, he's going to take credit for all this stuff, even though, of course, he's been against it the whole time. But it doesn't matter, because there is so much money to be made in this. I mean, Alex, you can't imagine how valuable this stuff is. Just think about this for 1 second. The price of WTI oil, that's the price of oil in the United States, is about $85 a barrel. The price of oil anywhere else in the world is about $125 a barrel. That's an enormous spread, okay? And it only costs you a couple dollars a barrel to ship it anywhere you want it.
And it gives you control to drive up or down the market. Wow.
Absolutely.
We've got to get excited. We got to take the states back. We got to have the states get together and say, we're nullifying you. You want to call that secession, whatever. You seceded. You were taken over by the globalist. That's coffin nails to these people. We're going to draft Ron Paul to get that message out, because he gave that message out in his speech, and that's coming up. Porter, you're right. Putin, you've got the folks out in Argentina using oil to stay in power. You've got Venezuela with Chavez. And there is an oil boom. We're now numero uno, number 1 oil producer in the world. And it's something that cartels can control and that Obama can manipulate. Please continue, and how that ties in. What will he do in that third term? I mean, we're talking about dictator Obama pretty much here.
I think it's clear, if you look around the world, there's a link between oil and dictatorship. And the reason is, of course, is that oil delivers incredible amounts of wealth. And whoever controls that wealth has all the power. So if you look at the Kirchners in Argentina, there was a husband and then there was a wife, and they've kept control of the government for a decade. Now, could Michelle Obama run in 4 years? I don't see why not. But I personally think it's going to be a stooge. It's going to be an Eric Holder type guy. And that's assuming that he can't just flat out buy his way out of the 22nd Amendment, which I think he'll be able to. And let me give you some facts that you can focus on, okay? This is the things you should watch for. Right now, there are a dozen U.S. companies, 12 U.S. companies, that have filed for a license to export LNG, which is liquefied natural gas. And Alex, I know you're aware that there is a huge glut of natural gas in the United States. the prices of natural gas have fallen so low that the companies are flaring the stuff off rather than bothering to put it through the pipeline.
They're just keeping it in the ground. They got it turned down. Boy, am I aware of that.
Yeah, okay. So there's nothing wrong with us selling this stuff overseas because we're drowning in it, okay? But they can't. Obama has sat on these licenses for over a year. He will not give anyone a license to export the LNG. Why? Well, very simply, no one's paid him enough money yet. They all wanted to see whether he would win this election. Now that he's won the election, he's going to collect. Think about what happened when he gave up his Senate seat in Illinois. Remember the governor there, Blagojevich guy?
Yes.
Remember what he said when the FBI wiretapped? He said, this thing is effing valuable. I'm going to get something for it, right?
Yes.
Well, believe me, these licenses are worth a lot more than a stupid Senate seat. These things are worth tens or hundreds of billions of dollars because the price of natural gas in Japan is $16 an MCF.
It's also a way to cut Russia off. Cut Russia off from Europe. Russia's playing blackmail with their natural gas. They're going to have those super tankers ship that stuff to Europe.
This stuff is, this energy we have is the most valuable thing in the world's economy. It's valuable politically. It's valuable in terms of the macro politics of the globe, and most importantly, it's powerful politically. It gives him enormous amounts of power in the country. So if he says, "Hey, I'll give you a license as long as you back my third term," what's he going to get?
He's going to get the third term. Wow.
He's going to get the third term. So he's going to buy off the poor with welfare, and he's going to buy off the corporations with energy.
Is there any way to stop this nightmare? Because, I mean, he says he's going to try to ban semi-auto guns. That will start a civil war. And then I guess all the corporations will line up behind him to just take over America as long as they can make some money.
I don't think there's any way to stop this as long as you have the system in place we have, where so few people support so many others. I mean, look, 10% of the people in the United States are paying for 75% of Obama's largesse. Half the people in the country are dependent upon the federal government. 50 million people are getting food stamps. You can, in a democracy, this is just completely destructive because you've bought all the voters. And hey, and Alex, did you know that in the last election, only 51% of the eligible Americans even bothered to vote?
I know. Listen, Porter, I got to have you back up soon for a full hour because you talk about the zombies. It is getting frightening when people, you tell them about all the tyranny, these yuppies and people giggle and laugh. They're so disconnected from reality. They've never had their butt kicked. They've never been in the military. They've never been mugged. They've never gone hungry. They've never worked a day in their life. And they think it's all funny. I have no idea what these idiots are going to think when it all collapses.
Well, they're not going to do very well. I can guarantee you that. And I've thought for a long time what would happen if the food stamps checks wouldn't clear. If there was so much inflation that the food stamps wouldn't buy you food anymore, what would happen to an urban setting like Baltimore, or what would happen in Houston? And I think those people who are ignoring these fiscal problems and who are ignoring what's happened to the morality of our country are going to be in for a rude awakening one day. Absolutely.
The Ron Paul speech, parts of it's coming up, is just off the charts. We're going to be playing it all over the next week here, and it's posted at Infowars.com. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.